Okay, let's get started. So our presenters now are joining us from online, I hope. I haven't seen, but the tech supports promised me they're here. So I would like to welcome Dr. Kashmira Dave and Kylie Day, both coming from the University of New England for this session. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Kashmira, do you want to kick off?
Yep. So everybody can see my screen?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for attending our presentation. We will be talking about examination, online examination that after a lot of struggle that we brought to the point where it is now. And I must acknowledge that I joined university only like 3 years ago, but Kylie is there for like at least 2 decades, and she is the pioneer and the driving force for this this change, if you think it is positive. So I hope that we will be able to share our journey and have some insights presented to you all. So we start with acknowledgement of the country. The University of New England respects the acknowledgement that its people, courses, and facilities are built on the land and surrounded by the sense of belonging, both ancient and contemporary, of the world's oldest living culture. In doing so, University of New England values and respect Indigenous knowledge system as a vital part of knowledge capital of Australia. We recognize the strength, resilience, and capacity of Aboriginal community and pay our respects to elders past, present, and future. So, because we're talking about exam, we all know that exam is not a new phenomena, and it happened in ancient time. You can see those two pictures, and it is happening now as well, and it's not much different. So what I want to emphasize here that for the university, such as ourselves, where 85% of the students studying online, online exams is not our like universities one of the thing, it is the thing. And so exams have been around for like a large, like long time, and it's hasn't changed much during this, like, let's say past 100 years or so. So inclusivity and accessibility for our students is kind of, it's not a add-on, if that makes sense. It is a part of our identity. So as I just want to mention and point out that our typical cohort for the students are about, so this is the snapshot that you are looking at is 2025 enrollment, and we have about 70% women and 4.6% Aboriginal students. So having this background in mind, I'll be handing over to Kylie to talk about the challenges that we had when we had 450 venue-based exam. So we had venue 450 places in the all over the world, and how we managed and what were the problems and how we kind of tried to solve it. So to Kylie.
Thanks, Kashmira. And I'm Kylie. I manage exams and eAssessment at UNE. And Kashmira mentioned it's been a long journey for us to get to this point, but we're also very, very proud of it. And it's been an ongoing vision that we've had to get to this point, where our exams are very different to, or how we manage exams is very different, and we believe much more accessible to students. So the challenges, Kashmira mentioned, we had 450 exam venues worldwide that we managed with, contracts and staffing and payroll and OH&S, and it was, you know, it wasn't a good system. The challenges for students who needed, you know, something beyond the default bog standard were very difficult, and we weren't, you know, it became very clear to us from direct conversations with students that face-to-face venue-based exams with traditional scheduling were actually an institutional barrier to participation. Our ability to provide a sufficiently ergonomic chair at our Tokyo exam venue, control the risks for students with multiple chemical sensitivities in Bendigo, the energy consumed by students needing to travel, where they experience chronic pain, and the energy that they expend on that, putting them out of action for days after, or the terrible conflict for a student forced to decide between their child's first day of school or their final exam. And these were real issues that we were encountering all the time, which made us feel that something needed to change. And the failure of scheduling to cater to students' myriad needs led directly to people withdrawing or achieving less than they were really capable of. I'm sure we're all aware of students choosing units that don't have exams because of these kind of barriers. Even where they could apply to defer their exams, that exam was held months later, and again scheduled without taking their needs into account. And we saw high attrition rates coming from that. Kashmira, could you move to the next slide, please? And so here's an image of that captures, you know, our idea of our average student, mature, first in family, female. She has caring, community and work responsibilities. She's juggling a lot. And we realised that we need to fit in with her, and she does not have the privilege or luxury to fit in with us. So we needed to change. So Kashmira, next slide, please. So this is a bridge in Honduras. It's a beautiful bridge, perfectly engineered, but it just doesn't do what it needs to do, right? And we felt like that was like or generally in higher education, the method of holding exams just isn't quite what it needs to be doing. So while this bridge was built to withstand hurricanes and connect to a bypass road, it became known as the Bridge to Nowhere after a hurricane altered the river's course. And I proposed that, you know, some methods of assessment in higher education at the moment might be a bridge to nowhere. When you add accessibility and universal design to the rubric, it's clearly not fit for purpose. Next slide, please, Kashmira. So in 2017, we adopted a live online exam supervision model. We've been working with Measure Learning, ProctorU, since then. We use their Live Plus online exam supervision service. Now, there are lots of different providers and lots of different services being provided globally. And so the higher education sector has been so far really bad at grouping all of these variety of services and options and providers into one, you know, amorphous online exams category and then making comments about it. And from what I see, the higher education sector is really bad at teasing out, you know, there are key differences going on, and some are better than others, and some do what they need to do, and some definitely do not. We are really happy with our service. And we know that people don't decide to hold exams for the fun of it. Identity verification and assurance that it's the student's own work is absolutely key to accreditation and reputation, but much more importantly, academic integrity assurance is key to industry and community safety. Who wants a nurse in an emergency room who cheated, who didn't do the work in their assessments? So that is also a really, really key priority for higher education. We have to have both, which can be really, really tricky. Kashmira, just to the one with the blue scheduling, I think it's one up, the previous one. Oh, no. And you're on mute, Kashmira. So Kashmira in a second is going to show a screen where a student is selecting a time slot, the one after the green clouds. with the eyeballs. Yep, the next one. Thank you. So with this platform that we adopted, we can now offer students the flexibility to choose their preferred start time for their exam within an availability window. And you can see from this example here, the students choosing a time slot at 10:20 on a Saturday night, which is, you know, can never happen with face-to-face venue-based exams. But this might be the only time or the best time for a student to do their best work in their assessment after the kids are put to bed. Next session, please. Next slide, please. And this is the initial reaction that we got from probably every single person, academic and professional staff at UNE and throughout the sector when we started talking about, hey, we could do this thing. We could do this thing where students could choose a time and a place for their exam that actually worked for them and removed that institutional barrier. And people would say, but no, exams need to be strict. Students should prioritise their study. Students need to organise themselves to show up or they shouldn't be at university. Now that one makes me sick and I want to get very angry with people. And they said, no one else is doing this. Why should we do this? And students will cheat. So quite a concerted change management effort was required, especially as other than in the higher ed sector, there's been a lot of talk about exams are bad, it's cop shit, we should trust students, it's not authentic, they're not accessible. But they haven't, the higher education sector has been really bad at examining which bits of those are moving parts that can be influenced. And it's from what I see when I follow those conversations, it's really a very black or white conversation going on without much nuance. And so the benefit of including practitioners in this conversation, the professional staff driving these conversations, is really key. And this is, I think, a key part of how we got to where we are. And the deep collaboration between our exams team, learning design team, and our LMS Moodle systems team really provided the expert knowledge and guidance to get us where we've got to. So how did we solve the whole people will cheat thing while, you know, providing all that uber flexibility and the academic integrity at the same time? Next slide. Thank you, Kashmira. So if just back one, sorry, the first wheel cogs one. Yep, next one, that one. So we create exam availability windows. We say this exam is available within these 24 hours, and then create the ability for students to go and choose a time within that availability window. And we also routinely create even further flexibility for students who need it on a one-on-one basis. And our exam design uses question banks and randomization. Next slide, please, Kashmira. And so it's an intentional increase in providing student agency because we know that without that agency in time and place, because a student can sit the exam in their place of their choosing, that it's an institutional barrier without that. Telling students to turn up at 9 a.m. at this hall or else is really, really difficult. And with that change came very much a large freeing up of resources and conflict in our institution. Students can now manage their own exam clashes and cadence. So previously we might have scheduled a student to have 2 exams over 2 days. And with this, with the rigid time slots, with this kind of use of this platform, we can allow students to separate those exams, have more time between them, or have them on the same day, because unbelievably, some students used to ring us up and say, this is crap, I want all of my exams on the same day. So they can do that now. So a student who's ready, willing, and able to complete their exam can actually do it. And if they're ready, willing, and able, and just not that day, we have the flexibility to say, how about tomorrow? And equally important, we can respond at scale for natural disasters, widespread power outages by just rescheduling. That takes us 5 minutes work plus comms to allow students to just do their exams next week. So we've dramatically improved the agency that students have. and the location they choose to undertake their exam in is already likely to be much more suitable for them than any exam venue we could ever arrange. Lighting, access, furniture, sensory, chemical sensitivity aspects are all under the student's control and not contributing to any additional load on their performance. Next slide, please, Kashmira. So there are plenty of people who utilize live exam supervision or recorded AI exam supervision. But what is unique about what we've done is the way we use it. And a lot of people in the sector forget that most aspects of exams and how they're managed are actual choice of the institution and within their control. So this platform allowed UNE to make a fundamental change to the academic calendar a while ago. Rigid start times are unnecessary when you're not managing venue capacities, available desks and chairs, supervisor rosters, and you have exam design aspects in place to manage collusion. And a lot of people don't get to that point in their thinking that they think, no, exams must look like this. They don't actually. Or those constraints were from managing logistics more than anything else. And traditional exam timetables are a product of gathering every single student's actual enrolment and finding a schedule where there are zero or as few as possible clashes for any individual student. This micromanaging of individual exam clashes is what stretches exam periods out over longer periods. But because we were able to allow students to manage their own clashes, we didn't have to do that. We could leverage that student agency to the point where we could compress our exam period to 1 week, noting that most of our students only have 1 or 2 exams. And the additional week is now embedded in the academic calendar for the whole institution as a much needed break between trimesters, which students and staff had long campaigned for. Next slide, please, Kashmira. Just to illustrate an example of how this works in the real world, here's a graph showing the distribution of start times over a 24-hour period that students have booked into. Next slide, please, Kashmira. And again, in the red highlighted bars in the graph, show our previous standard start times. So back in the day, when we said everyone starts their exam at the same time, those were the 2 start times each day. And that practice is still standard across universities who use online exams. They still insist that students start their exams all at the same time or within a very, very compressed period. And this next graph is just highlighting, as you can see, when we allow students to select a start time that suits them, we can see in this example that 75% of students have selected a different start time and 40% of them are choosing to start their exam outside of business hours. We've even got a little spike occurring at 6 a.m, maybe for students to get their exams finished before they start work for the day. So you can see the need for or demand for this flexibility is quite substantial. But how did we solve the whole people will cheat issue? And that's what the controversy in prioritising student accessibility and agency drove the need to re-examine exam design. Next one, please. Here's a few very quick examples of how we now, instead of, as Mike Franklin, who's in the audience, likes to point out, we shouldn't just be putting a paper exam behind a sheet of glass. And equally with the supervision platform, we're not just replacing a desk and a chair in a hall and using this as a proxy for a desk and a chair. It's a completely, second, an order of change that is much bigger than that. So in this case, the traditional objections of exams are that can't be authentic. They now have no basis. In this case, students have access to AustLII, the Australian Law Case Repository, just like a real lawyer would. Or this next one that Kashmira is going to show us, where we have an interactive, iterative exam design where the next question is based on the student's last response. This one is an example of where if the authentic skill that's being assessed in psychology is observing and making judgments on human behaviour, then maybe a video of that behaviour is better than a text-based question. And the last one here is an example of a 3D model that a student through the software can manipulate, move, use measuring tools and other tools, and assess an object online in the same way that they might physically. And so we hope that all of these options that are now available to assessment designers allow a move away from rigid text-based questions, which is also an accessibility challenge. And we hope that will lead to a wider variety of ways for students to engage with assessment. So overall, we can see that, this move should be treated as a second order change rather than just an online version of a bit of paper and a desk. It's not been a simple or easy path, but we believe in the benefits this can provide for accessibility for all students, allowing UNE to be responsive to students and resilient to risk at the same time. Next one. And just making the point that I think we're unique. We study other universities dabbling in attempts at and projects to implement online exams. And the difference we've seen between us and other universities and their levels of varying success is that we've combined groups of people who don't normally interact, who don't have solid communication channels, and we've luckily enough to have a structure where exams team works directly with learning design team, LMS technical team and academics. And the next one. And just that reminder that we don't need to do this alone at all. Collaboration is that magical spark. Did you want to say anything, Kashmira?
Yes. I'm sure that you might be thinking about asking about like all the variety of exams that we offer to our students at different times, and what is the chance of students talking to each other about the exam and having that kind of like academic integrity issue. But we have multiple exams created, and as Kylie mentioned, that we have different teams working together. So learning design, exam team, myself in academic development. So next step for us would be, which I'm seeking funding for, is that we would like to have a framework created for assessment, and we want to have our academics trained or kind of like a capacity built for designing different kind of assessment that we just demonstrated in this. And initially it is a little bit of more work for our academics, because that they have to create more than one assessment for alternative exams and also for the period of exam. So that's what we are looking to capacity build for our staff in next few years, I think in next couple of years.
Thank you, Kashmira and Kylie. I'm going to have to stop you there. We're very close to time. Thank you both so much. I cannot wait to go back to my institution and start referring to exams as bridges to nowhere. I'm going to be very popular, and I'd like to just thank Jacob. That was a really nice save you did right in the middle of that. And I let you keep talking because you were actually answering a lot of the questions that were coming up in Slido. I just have one to put to you before we go. Did you get much pushback from students in the use of proctor exams?
Yes, in that when people pushed back, they were quite loud about it. But not in huge numbers. There was definitely that whole 2020, oh my God, Proctor, you eat babies for breakfast. I'm being supervised by someone in their mum's basement with a tinfoil hat on. They're going to steal my stuff, right? We have been through the absolute ringer with all of that. And we have a very high level of confidence in the privacy and cybersecurity aspects. We have picked through it with a fine-tooth comb over the last 7 years and weathered many rocks being thrown at us. What we found is when we took over the responses to students saying, oh my God, that sounds scary, when we were able to say which bits, let me show you this, let me explain that, let you show the evidence, let me demonstrate. Did you know this, that, and the other? We have reduced what used to be probably thousands of formal contacts with the university saying, I just can't or won't sit my exam this way, to last exam period, we had 0 students, with approved responses from the university based on privacy, and very low numbers based on any other reasons, like my computer won't do the thing for me. So through really careful communication, providing support, but also, hey, we're an online university, this is what we do now, let's have that conversation. We've really been able to damp that down. When it was left with the academic staff just responding, they were also going, oh my God, that sounds terrible. And we're like, hang on a minute, here's my evidence, where's yours? So it's one of those things that
That's
easily
amazing.
got blown up with a lot of hyperbole, and that's where my comments about higher ed is really bad at teasing out the details and getting really specific around this topic. Really good about going, it's all bad, it's all terrible, they'll steal your data, when it's not the case.
Thank you so much. That is all we have time for.